Hi everyone. Apex programming is an integral part of development on the Salesforce platform. Apex offers developers the power to customize the Salesforce org to support complex business processes. However, that power needs to be exercised with caution. A Salesforce administrator keeps security and access control in mind while setting up the org, using tools like org-wide defaults, profiles, permission sets, roles, sharing settings, etc. to make sure the right users have access to the right data at all times. In the same way, a developer working on Apex also needs to make sure that their code does not inadvertently provide access to sensitive data that a user normally would not have had access to. If an administrator has already taken care of the user's security and access controls, then why does the developer need to worry about it again? That's because Apex runs in system context, which means the current user's permissions and field level security are not taken into account when the code is running. In most scenarios, this is needed for backend logic to run successfully without errors due to missing user level permissions. But for scenarios where you have to make sure that security is enforced in your Apex code to protect sensitive data, Apex provides several ways to handle this. So let's start looking into each of these mechanisms, starting with enforcing sharing rules. Firstly, let's take a look at the organization-wide default settings for the opportunity object. It's private, which means only either the owner or those users with whom the record has been shared will be able to see the opportunity records. We have a custom app with a Visualforce page displaying a list of all the opportunities in the org. This data is being fetched with the help of an Apex controller. If we take a look at the Apex class that is used to fetch this data, the method just has a socket query to retrieve all the opportunities from the org. And we can see that there are 89 opportunities in the org. As a system admin who has view all permission, I can see all 89 opportunities, which means all the records are retrieved by the Apex method. In this list, we can see the names of the owners of the opportunities as well. Now, let's log in as one of the sales users, Anna Brisson. Because the OWD of opportunity is private, Anna should be able to see only her opportunity records, which she would have normally seen had she gone to the My Opportunities list view in the standard sales application. So let's check what she is able to see in our custom Lightning page. She sees an insufficient privileges error. Why is that? So here comes one of the basic security mechanisms, class security. You can specify which users can execute methods in a particular class based on their user profile or permission sets. Let's quickly log out as Anna and go to Setup Apex classes, and we can see that the Opportunity Controller Apex class is not available for Sales User Profile. We can add that here, but since we are using a Visualforce page, let's add the Visualforce page to the Sales User Profile, and it implicitly adds all the dependent Apex classes also to the profile access. Now let's see if Anna is able to see only her opportunities in the list. No, she is seeing all the 89 records, including those records which she doesn't own. That is because Apex is running in system mode. In order to make the class enforce sharing rules, we need to specify the keyword with sharing on the Apex class. The sharing rules for the current user are then considered for the class. Let's quickly deploy this class into the org and refresh the page. It now shows 18 records. This is now the correct data that Anna is supposed to see. There are some opportunities not owned by Anna but still showing in this list because the account is owned by Anna, and so the opportunity is implicitly shared with her. Then there is another keyword without sharing. Let's see what that is. And quickly deploying the class back into the org. And now we can see all the 89 records. Without sharing, as the name suggests, ensures that the sharing rules for the current user are not enforced. Looks like the behavior is the same when nothing is specified or when without sharing is specified. The sharing rules are not enforced. Then why do we even have a keyword without sharing? The without sharing keyword is particularly useful when a class is called from another class that is declared using with sharing. In our Apex class, which is running in with sharing mode, let's comment out the socle and add a call to a helper class, which also runs the same socle query. In this case, the opportunity helper class does not have any sharing mode specified, but it is running in with sharing context as it has been called from the controller class that is declared with sharing, which is why we are seeing only 18 records. If you want to explicitly turn off the sharing rule enforcement for the code in a particular class, use without sharing mode. The code in the helper class is now running in without sharing mode. And once the control goes back to the calling class, it returns to with sharing mode. Now let's take a look at something called inherited sharing. Writing Apex classes without specifying the type of sharing mode makes your class behavior ambiguous, and it is not a secure way of coding. If you want your class to run dynamically in either with sharing or without sharing mode at runtime, it is recommended to use inherited sharing keyword. An Apex class with inherited sharing runs as with sharing as the default mode to run. If you are building apps for publishing on the App Exchange, using inherited sharing enables you to pass App Exchange security review. The key difference between using inherited sharing and omitted sharing declaration is that if your class is the entry point to an Apex transaction, then an omitted sharing declaration runs as without sharing, but inherited sharing ensures that the default is to run as with sharing. A class declared as inherited sharing runs as without sharing only when explicitly called from an already established without sharing context. What about field level security? A key point to note is usage of with sharing only enforces the record level sharing rules, not the field level security. This is a commonly misunderstood or confused concept, so let's take a look. The sales user profile does not have access to edit the custom field tier on the opportunity object. It's read-only. We have a custom Lightning component that updates the tier field on the opportunity with the help of an Apex method updateOpti. Even though the user Anna does not have edit permissions on the tier field, she is able to update the field via Apex, and it doesn't matter that the class was declared as with sharing. In other words, the with sharing class did not enforce field level permissions of the current running user. So, how do we make sure that the object level and field level permissions are enforced while Apex is running? We'll take a look at that in the next video.